And we finally got to see a new episode of Invincible.
I found it really enjoyable, really accurate to the characters, to the comics.
This is from issue 16. Imagine that you didn't read the comics, and you put on episode 1, season 2, and you see Invincible's face on this big, like, TV screen in Times Square or somewhere equivalent. Like, what's going through your head not having read the comics?
I know for a fact what would be going through my head, honestly, and I, with like 99% certainty, can say I would have been thinking that it was a dream for the longest time.
Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron,
and we put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're reacting to the first episode of season 2 of Invincible.
3, 2, 1, action.
Bum, 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 bum. Dude, it was finally here. It finally happened. We finally got to see a new episode of Invincible dropped on Amazon Prime last week. What were your first thoughts? We didn't get to watch it together, which that was the plan, but life got in the way, and we had to watch it at our own places individually. So I don't really know too much about like your first reactions to the movie. Were you as hyped as I felt?
My first reaction was that it wasn't even worth watching if we weren't watching it together.
That's true. That's true. I was really sad that we weren't able to sync up. But
no, I think that my first reaction was that I loved it. I mean, I knew I was going to love it. There's never doubt in my mind. I found it really enjoyable, really accurate to the characters, to the comics. A really strong start to the season. I loved it. What about you?
It was fantastic. It was worth the wait. I don't like having to wait that long, but they started out solid. It was a fantastic episode. How much are we gonna like relate to the comics? Are we gonna like spoil things in this episode? Should people like be wary of that while watching this?
So let's just say spoiler alert for episode 1 of season 2 of Invincible and nothing else, and we'll avoid spoiling from the comics.
Okay.
I don't want to alienate people who just want to watch the show and not have it spoiled. I don't like to have stuff spoiled for me when I watch stuff.
So if we're about to spoil something, the other one of us will quickly intervene to keep it under wraps.
Yeah, I have a hard time with like certain things.
It's hard because we've said this before that the show goes at a slightly different pace than the comics. So some of the things have happened in the comics that have been seen in the show, and some of the things in the comics that were already past hasn't happened in the show yet.
There's also characters whose, to me, like their names are inherently spoilers. Either characters they haven't shown or characters who...
Right.
But I will say, though, that the audience seems to agree with us. The rating for this episode is 8.4 out of 10 on IMDb, which is stellar. So this episode is absolutely caking in terms of audience reactions and reviews. We're discussing season 2, episode 1 of Invincible, A Lesson for Your Next Life, which is the description on IMDb says, in the aftermath of his father's betrayal, Mark struggles with his responsibilities as Invincible and encounters an unexpected enemy. And I think that what's so cool about this episode is how they make Omni-Man a part of the episode without having him in it. For one thing, there's the very beginning of the episode with the alternate universe that we will talk about. But first, I want to say how it's so cool that everyone's storyline in this episode is, in some way or another, their reaction to the incident or that day when Mark fought his dad, Nolan or Omni-Man, and you see Mark dealing with it. He's grappling with trying to like get his feet under him, get his confidence back. He's trying to get like his head back in the game and prove that he's like worth it, that Cecil is like deserving of Cecil's like attention and getting back working with the Guardians, getting on the big cases.
Right.
And Cecil's responding. He's like struggling with trusting. He's said to Donald that he has to keep Mark at arm's length because he's not going to make the same mistake he made with Nolan. So he's even more untrusting than he was before, which is a statement.
And then you have Immortal, who's also kind of on the fence and definitely leaning towards like, I will never trust Invincible.
Yeah. He doesn't seem like he's going to trust Viltrumites. And then you've got Debbie, who's obviously reeling. Her world has been destroyed. Her husband of like 20 years, probably the person she trusted the most in the world, called her a pet.
You're a pet.
Yeah. So like her self-esteem's got to be destroyed. We're seeing her start the drinking, which
I wouldn't even say to my cats that they're just a pet.
Yeah.
What an insult, you know, like
Yeah.
to say to someone that you've spent 20 years of your life, even though that is such a small like portion of his life. I understand the comparison, but man, it's harsh.
It's such a good line to write because it says a lot in a little, like, it really is demeaning from her perspective, but it makes sense from his perspective because her lifespan is like 1/10 of his lifespan. Like maybe she could, if she's very, very lucky, live to be 100.
Yeah.
And I think Viltrumites can live to be like 10,000. So that would make it like 100th.
I had it in my mind that it was like 1,000,
No.
like 1,000 years.
It's at least 5,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a long time.
Yeah, dude. I think my best estimation when I was reading the comics was that it's 5 to 10,000. And I don't remember where I came to those numbers, but I'll
Yeah. I'm also not sure where I came to 1,000 either, but that's what I thought their lifespan was 1,000.
I think he said
In the comments below, let us know who's right, who's wrong, if we're way off.
Oh, I'm right. No, but Omni-Man says to him, he says, like, what will you have in 1,000 years or something like that? And he's like, I don't care if I live 1,000,000 years. So
Yeah.
I think they've got a couple thousand under their belt. And they age slower as they get older. So that's an important thing to know about their characters. So that explains why he aged normally up to 17. And then he's monumentally, exponentially aging slower as he continues to age.
Right.
So Conquest is like probably, to me, in my perspective, thousands of years old.
Which
Not a spoiler.
I was gonna say that you said that so fast I couldn't stop you.
Who's Conquest, right?
I don't know.
But
Sounds like a mission that Invincible goes on.
But even like Eve and Amber are responding to it in the sense that they're like consoling their friend and boyfriend Mark. Like everybody, the world has been rocked. Like average citizens, they see a news story about the destruction of the city. So like the whole episode is like still responding to the season finale, which gives more weight to the season finale of season 1 and like connects everything together, which I think is awesome. Like in that sequence of Mark like kind of half-heartedly going through hero work that he feels like is menial, like he could be doing more, but he's like still so smooth, and like the song they chose to play with that was my favorite sequence.
Radiohead, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's my favorite sequence in the whole episode, bar none. Yeah.
Well, we also got to see like him have to hold back his anger too. You know, like
with him seeing those villains from season 1,
right?
He's letting the GDA handle.
Yeah, he wanted to just wreck shop, you know, but he held it back. One, because of the image, right? Like if he does anything remotely wrong, like the whole world's going to scrutinize him even more than they possibly already are.
But that also highlights the difference between our Mark and the other Marks in the multiverse, because there's a line in the opening of this episode that says, like, Angstrom Levy says, maybe it's not in the opening, but I think when he's talking to the Maulers, Angstrom says, most other multiverses, Invincible joined Omni-Man and they took over the Earth.
Right.
So those Invincibles, I think, are more likely to give into their baser impulses, which when I say their baser impulses, I mean their Viltrumite impulses without going into greater detail. They've said that they're like a warrior society, so that's not a spoiler. So his impulses from a genetic standpoint they're cold. They're like it's like they do this with like German Shepherds in Europe. When they breed German Shepherds, they breed the most aggressive ones to like and then train them to like aim their aggression. Like, so that's the same way Viltrumites are. It's like they're cold to be like the most strong, vicious, aggressive. And Mark has that in his bloodline, comes straight from his dad, who's like obviously a top tier, upper echelon Viltrumite. So I think the Mark and all the other multiverses joining their dad shows us like how different and unique our Mark is, which like highlights his main character energy, makes him more special. And then like that decision to hold back right there that you talked about is like indicative of him being able to do that. Because obviously he wants to, right? Like we get the line later in the episode where he's like, you have no idea how bad I wanted you to say that. So what do you like best? If I know you like that line, right?
Of course.
How does that compare for you to Spider-Verse when he says, everybody's telling me how what is it? Everybody's telling me how my
life is going to be or should be.
It's how my stories. Everyone's telling me how my story's supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah.
So which one of those? How do they?
That's crazy because I've watched both of those in the last week. We watched.
it came on Netflix,
Yeah, we
right?
watched Across the Spider-Verse this past weekend.
PSA Spider-Verse 2 is on Netflix if you want to watch
Yes. I feel like the Spider-Verse one's just a little bit more memorable because it's at like the climax of the movie. This one's kind of like he's just fighting like, the Mulder twins. Like it didn't seem like as big of a fight, but man, the line was so cool.
it. I think I absolutely agree with you. But if you put in the line from Mark in season 1 where he says, I don't care if I live a fucking million years, this is my home and I'm not going to destroy it. Like then I would put that one on top.
I would too.
Because I just love the way Stephen Yeun delivers that line.
For sure.
Go to my grave loving that line.
I have a question for you. So imagine that you didn't read the comics, and you put on episode 1, season 2, and you see Invincible's face on this big like TV screen in Times Square or somewhere equivalent. Like, what's going through your head not having read the comics?
I know for a fact what would be going through my head, honestly, and I, with like 99% certainty, can say I would have been thinking that it was a dream for the longest time. I'd been like, this is Mark's nightmare of like, if he went with his dad. It's like a up and down nightmare because it's like he still has his relationship with his dad, but he's seeing himself as a villain.
Yeah,
it's like because we see in the trailer even there's a line, and it's in the first episode too, where he says that like, what if he's becoming his dad and he doesn't even notice it? So I think one of his biggest fears now that his dad has unveiled himself is becoming that unintentionally. So I would have definitely thought it was like a dream sequence.
You know what I would have thought it was?
What?
I would have thought that it was like a flash forward. That it was foreshadowing something to happen, like maybe at the end of the season or something, where somehow Invincible does reunite with his dad. But then later in the episode, they explain that there's a multiverse, so that they kind of put it to rest. They didn't let it like linger too long to let people like, oh no, what was that? But they also didn't like hold your hand through it either. They didn't give you like an Earth label or a time label
I
like
told you this.
like
I think I messaged you this. If you have subtitles on and you're paying close attention to the subtitles, it does say under Angstrom Levy's name, Angstrom Levy parentheses 646. So that could key you into the fact that he is one of many Angstrom Levys, insinuating a multiverse. Obviously, a play on Earth 616 for the MCU or the Marvel comics. The mainline story of Marvel takes place in Earth 616. So that's like their little nod. But I think that short of that, it's just like figured out. Even after they're saying figure it out. One thing I want to talk about the multiverse in this is in Invincible. Yes, they're doing the multiverse in their show in the year 2023.
Dude, hot topic, right? Everyone's doing a multiverse.
Exactly. Everyone is everything.
Like, wow, Invincible's just copying everyone else. They're just trying to stay relevant.
That's what I want to talk about because everything everywhere all at once, the MCU, we got multiverse in Doctor Strange, we got the multiverse in Spider-Verse, multiverse popping up everywhere, right?
Yep.
Even Oscar movies. But the Invincible comics came out in 2003. So they really did the multiverse around 20 years ago. And not to say that they're the first one to ever do it because DC and Marvel Comics were already doing it in their comics. But I think that's where they got the inspiration because this is a critique on, not really a critique, but draws a lot of inspiration, obviously, from other superhero storylines, darkens it, and in some ways is a critique of certain characters. But I think that I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
They're not hopping on the bandwagon. The idea of their multiverse comes from the comics that were written 20 years ago.
And this is like kind of like a little source code of this episode, which source codes where we talk about the source material of whatever subject we're talking about. This is from issue 16, which if you follow Invincible's TikTok page or Instagram page, they put a little reel together, which was really cool because it had clips from the episode, but they were in comic panels.
That's cool.
And then they said in the caption that this is based off of issue 16. And I was like, that was really cool. Issue 16 came out August of 2004. Well, so like you said, much before like all these big movies doing the multiverse. And like you said, they weren't the first ones to do it, but they weren't just jumping on the bandwagon either.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. I read through issue 16 today, and the first like probably 8 to 15 pages directly from the show. They took directly
the dialogue,
from the
right? The dialogue.
Yeah. Like, I mean, this looks like the show. Like this first panel here, that's that's the opening scene of the show.
If you're listening, Aaron's holding up the panel to the...
Yeah, no one does that. No one. Everyone's on YouTube.
Yeah, but some people listen on YouTube.
Yeah, well then, look at the screen at that point.
If you're driving, look at the road.
Well, you pull over and watch the episode. No,
Call your boss and tell him you'll be 20 minutes late.
but yeah, a lot of the things are straight from this episode. Some of the things towards the end of the episode with like the Muller twins and stuff.
So different sections.
That's issue 17. So it takes from multiple issues, but the main gist of it is from issue 16, which is pretty cool.
And our expectations have been rocked by some of these issue lineups because we're obviously very excited for a certain arc in the story that we may not see now.
Yes.
Based on...
Yeah, so when the trailer first came out, we did a trailer reaction video, and that was what, like 2 weeks ago, if that. And they showed like this panel, right, where Mark's talking about you got to follow us, and we thought the us was someone else than maybe who it actually will be.
I still think that in terms of a TV show format, choosing to show this in the season opening will insinuate that there will be obviously more multiverse involvement of the characters shown. So that's my expectation going forward, but there is a potentiality that segment was only to acquaint us with that universe's Angstrom Levy, because that Angstrom Levy is obviously playing a big role in the mind of our Angstrom Levy from the mainline Invincible universe, because we hear him say like, he destroyed my world, like, so talking about Invincible, right? So that's the brain of that Angstrom Levy, I'm assuming we saw in the opening of the episode, because now the minds are all meshed together. So he's kind of got this like multiple personality disorder issue in his head, or dissociative identity, where there's a bunch of Angstrom Levy's minds crashed in, and he didn't really get the benefit the Muller were talking about, because they talked about installing something where he could easily differentiate himself and separate the alternate memories, and that seems to have come crashing down through the explosion. That's what's dementing his mind. He sees Invincible on and off as a villain, because in other universes he is a villain. So that's where
even in this universe, he like in a way stopped him from finishing his project.
Yeah.
Right. So
which was like so messed up, because they're talking about like how Angstrom Levy's gonna be able to cure cancer and solve all these issues, and they just superhero comes in not knowing all the details, and just because the Muller twins are there, brings the building down basically.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
But that's the thing about Invincible, is it's great at gray area storytelling. Invincible himself throughout the whole story, he is not perfect. He's a 17-year-old hero. And that's something that I think a lot of Marvel and DC kind of like, they show how being 17, 16 can make it difficult to be a hero. Oh, I've got homework. But the 17-year-olds make the absolute best decision in every scenario all the time. I mean, this 17-year-old has godlike powers. Like, his strength is inhuman. He can fly. Like, so he's going to make mistakes. And that's just the reality of Mark Grayson Invincible. Like, we're going to see him make mistakes. And I think that it's a good thing. Like, that makes the story way more interesting. It makes a good story,
for sure.
It's frustrating, though, as a viewer, like, why did you stop them? They were, like, doing something good.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, like, how it would have played out, right? Like, if he was able to finish that, like, would he still use all of that knowledge for good, or would he see something and be like, look, I can't ignore this. Like, we got to stop these people,
I think what the story was hinting at for us was just that Angstrom Levy. That Angstrom Levy was a really good guy.
Right.
So, like, yeah.
Who is voiced by Sterling K. Brown.
Let's do the voice cast.
Did a phenomenal job.
He did. So good.
He's so, like, stoic and calm, and then, like, that contrasting, like, Mark's frequent, like, back and forth with rage. Yeah, like, it sounded so good.
Let's go through who's in front of him behind the camera just real quick for this episode, because I do have it here. So the directors for this episode are Sol Choi and Dan Duncan. Our writers are Simon Wekiopa. Sorry if I mispronounced any names. Robert Kirkman and Corey Walker getting their credits. And then our main starring cast, Stephen Yeun as Mark Grayson / Invincible, Sandra Oh as Debbie Grayson, J.K. Simmons as Nolan Grayson in the beginning of the episode, Zazie Beetz as Amber, Sterling K. Brown, as Aaron mentioned, is playing Angstrom Levy, Gray Griffin shows up as Olga, and Walton Goggins as Cecil, Jillian Jacobs as Eve. And another, I think, a big voicing roles in this episode, we've got the Guardians of the Globe. So Melise is Duplicate, Jason Mantzoukas is Rex, Ross Marquand is Immortal, Carrie Payton is Black Samson, Jay Farrow is Bulletproof, Zachary Quinto is Robot, Kevin Michael Richardson is the Maulers. So stacked voice cast, as always.
Absolutely.
A lot of Walking Dead cast members in there, a lot of beloved actors in there. Who was your favorite voice acting performance in this episode?
Sterling K. Brown. Yeah.
I think he delivered his
It
lines
just
the
like
best.
stood out to me.
Yeah.
One, it's a new character too. So like we haven't heard him in this universe yet. And I didn't know that it was him going into this. I might have read it before, but I forgot. And right away I recognized his voice and I was like, I love that man.
I like his lines a lot. I think his lines are really well written too. And then his gravitas like just makes it like a little bit Shakespearean, a little bit like Bane from Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
If Nolan had more time in the episode, then J.K. Simmons might have given him a run for his money.
Sure.
But
absolutely.
Not that Stephen Yeun does a bad job. He always does a great job. The rest of the cast was great, but I think Sterling K. Brown shined the most for me in this episode.
Yeah. So we're in agreement there. Are we going to do a weekly Invincible recap?
I think
Are we going to talk about it every single
if
week?
just one person asks for it, I'm like on the edge. Like I just have to give me like the slightest breeze, and I'll blow into doing episode every week. But if one person asks for it,
we've been debating it back and forth. Like, are we going to do Invincible every single week? We've already done the trailer reaction 2 weeks ago. Last week we reacted to the last fight between Omni-Man and Invincible. So this is the third week in a row already with Invincible content.
if we get there's 3 more episodes before the break. So we could just as easily cover the first half after and do 2 episodes instead of 4.
Right. So let us know. Do you want to hear us talk about this every single week for every single episode, or should we kind of wait till the end of this break, so the first 4 episodes or so, and then do a recap of that? Let us know in the comments down below.
Yes. And is there any other big plot points that you wanted to touch on in this episode? I think we talked about the multiverse, unless you want to talk about the opening more. We talked about everyone's reaction, which is the start of the part after the multiverse, everybody's reaction to Omni-Man and the city being destroyed. We talked about the other big section of the episode, which is the Mauler twins and Angstrom Levy and destroying the lab.
What'd you think of like the choreography of that fight?
I mean, we saw Invincible get his ass beat.
Which is cool.
Yet again. I think that...
Or even all the different variations of the Mueller twins coming through. Like,
I like that. In the comics, isn't it it's just exact clones? Or
let me kind of flip through.
I thought I remember them flavoring that up a little bit. I think it's behind there. No? Is that him?
I don't think so. This is him just originally talking. Like, they just broke out of jail here.
Gotcha.
So we haven't seen the clones.
I thought they added that flavor because I thought I remembered the comics, the Muellers
Just all looking the same.
Similar, yeah. And they really like took the chance to Spider-Verse it and make them look really unique in the... And I thought you said it was issue 17.
I guess it spans across even more. I got to hold it up so we don't show everything. Oh, wait, this already happened in the show.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that
was the trip to Mars with the Sequids.
Yep. And then we got this shapeshifter, which we saw in the trailer. He'll probably come up in the next few episodes.
What's his name? I can't remember. I'm the Shapesmith? Shapesmith,
yes,
I think.
That's it. I guess it's a little while till we
could talk about
see them.
We could talk about our predictions for the rest of the season, but that, I mean,
you want to go into like a spoiler portion of this episode?
A guesstimation spoiler. Okay, so
So the problem with that though is Jay's going to keep watching. He's going to have it ruined for him.
Jay, if we spoil this, you have to stop the episode.
Yeah, just Jay, come back after you read all the comics.
We'll do just like the end 2 minutes for comic fans,
Right.
if any are listening.
Yeah, let's do it. What are your predictions for the rest of the season?
I think in a TV show format, it'd be foolish to not show Invincible Wars if you're going to show us the alternate universe. There is the argument that they're showing us just that Angstrom Levy because it's contributing to the greater Angstrom Levy's hive mind, and that when in the fight with Angstrom Levy in the comics, Invincible gets stranded on that alternate universe because that's where he runs into like the Guardians, that alternate Guardians of the Globe. So it's introducing the alternate Guardians of the Globe there. Mm-hmm. Or he gets stranded on the in-between universe that Angstrom Levy takes the Maulers to.
That's right. And then doesn't Robot come and save him?
Yeah, Robot comes and gets him back to his home universe.
Yeah.
So I think potentially in this season, we're definitely going to see him go to Thraxa because we got a small, tiny taste of that in the trailer. Mm-hmm. So he'll go to Thraxa. I don't want to say too much. We'll just say he'll go to Thraxa, introduce a new character, find a character that we've seen before, and then I think we'll have the other climactic event involving Engstrom Levy at the very least. And they could choose to add a third event, which would be Invincible Wars, if they want to zoom along the timeline.
I feel like we're not going to see Invincible Wars this season. Like I was really pumped for it. I really thought we were going to based off the trailer, but since that trailer was in reference to this opening of issue 16 rather than like the actual opening of Invincible Wars, I'm feeling like a little bit more doubtful. That
still a lot to fit into this season, so I'm trying to buy into it more too.
Because we have issue 16, and then Invincible Wars doesn't start until like kind of the middle of Compendium 2. You know, so like that's.
I thought they were just reordering events, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it was a pipe dream.
Yeah. I was hoping for that for sure, but I feel like they're gonna.
That they show. I just showed over your shoulder in the trailer where it's one of the Viltrumite soldiers getting clocked. Like that's. We're going to get that segment of the show, which is another really cool segment.
Yeah. So good. Either way, I'm excited. Even if we don't get Invincible Wars, like it's still going to be epic. You know, there's
Debbie will get a big arc, you know, Invincible will get a big arc. So
yeah.
It's going to be a good season either way. I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah, I think that's all that I have to say about it for now. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody listening.
Well,
it's a tough line to walk.
I know. We did say a lot that last 2 minutes. So hopefully, if you haven't seen or haven't read the comics, you stopped watching. But if you haven't, thanks so much for the support, for watching the channel, for watching our different videos that we put out. Again, if you want us to talk about this every single week, let us know down below, and we will easily do so. We're so excited for this show. We have a bunch of other episodes coming out. We're talking about Gen V in another episode. So if you like superhero content, make sure you hit that subscribe button to check out all of our other videos. We're on social media everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, of course. We post new full episodes every Monday and Thursday. We've been doing so for well over a year now. So again, thank you so much. And that's a wrap.